Oh, here we go. It's been a while since I did one of these bad boys. I know that much. Oh, yeah. So let's get everything all set up and ready so that, we can continue this building the app from scratch. I'm sorry about, not being around so much. Been, very busy. And, I do what I can when I can. But I got all kinds of cool stuff. Planning on making the channel so much better. You guys are gonna be seeing all kinds of content pumping out. A lot of good stuff has been happening. It's just been really, really, really busy. But we're gonna get going right now. Let me just post these links. Say, yo, your boy Kila Lucker, he's going live. He's doing it big time. Yeah. Let's just get those links out. So while we wait for others to join, if anybody even cares to join, let's go ahead and do a recap of where we left off. I come back to this project and it looks horrendous, just god awful, man. All right, so what we got going on here is, we got some onboarding screens. That's all UI related. We got to sign in, sign up. So we're gonna be working on APIs. Well, maybe we'll get to APIs today. I'm not really sure. Just realized that you guys can't see my screen. So let's do some screen sharing up in here. Let's do some screen sharing up in here. All right. So as I was saying, look at that Inception. Okay, so as I was saying, we got some onboarding screens. That's UI only. Sign in, sign up. Those are API related. Everything else is essentially API related. We're doing all this good stuff. Look at the schedule, a home feed activity. And what I really want to get going today is where are you? Where are you? Where are you? The Vapor stuff. We got our hub IO, and I really want to get this all up and running for you guys. We're gonna be doing some API requests and stuff and things and stuff is like that. But first, let's review what other information we also noted, because we made an objects list right here. As you can see, these are all the objects that we can foresee being in each in the entire app. So we have like frameworks, that's an object, activities, that's an object, message, so on and so forth. So we got a couple of objects that we got to make. And what I usually like to do is I usually like to start off with the user object, because what it's going to do is you can't really do any of these things until you actually, I don't know why email is an object. That's a interesting way of going about it, Kyle. I don't like this. I'm gonna take that out right now. Bam, gone. So long. Wait, no more. See you later. All right, so back to what I was saying. We're gonna probably work on the user object right now. That's what I'm thinking that we should do. Vapor user object. And I don't know if we'll be able to get into all of this stuff. And I'm gonna talk along the way. This is by no means a tutorial on how all this stuff fits together. I plan on doing all that stuff for you guys at a later time. I'll get into the deep dive of how all this Vapor stuff works together, but you'll be watching me implement it, because I don't want to spend too much time making this like a tutorial when I'm actually going to do an in-depth tutorial on how to set some of this stuff up. All right, so the first thing that I want to do is I just want to run this. I want to run our Vapor project, make sure that it's all working and stuff. Because if it ain't working already, then what is the point? and we're going to use rested. I like rested because it allows you to do JSON encoding for your parameters. We could do form encoded if we want it, but JSON encoded is just way so much sexier. Oh yeah. So by default, Vapor will put on your local host will be on port 8080, and we just want to make sure that all this stuff works. So what we're gonna do as soon as Vapor or Xcode decides to finish compiling all this beautifulness, we're going to test out our hello. Make sure we get hello world back. What's going on, AR? Yeah, I'm not even gonna try to say that last name because I'm gonna butcher it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so we're gonna test this out right here. We don't really need to look at any of this stuff over here. Don't worry about any of that. If you did want to kind of follow along, just so you know, we are using the Vapor API template. So when you do the Vapor API template, what it does for you auto-magically, is it generates or it puts in Fluent as one of the dependencies. So if you didn't do that, what's going on, Glenn? If you didn't do that, make sure that you do it like so. There is a huge update, and I want to make this clear. I put out a video on how to get started with Vapor 3. That just turns out that wasn't Vapor 3. That was the third version of the Vapor toolchain, which I'm not really sure what the difference is. It doesn't make sense to me. But this is Vapor 2, just so you guys know. And since Vapor 1 and Vapor 2, keep an eye on this. The P's are lowercase. That, for whatever reason, this is a huge deal. The P's are lowercase if you have a Vapor 1 project and you're planning on following along. And you have to say .update to next major version and then enter it in like so. Also, you want to make sure that your dependencies are inside the targets. So right now we only have Vapor and Fluent Provider. So as you can see, Vapor, Fluent Provider, we got them right there. Damn, this is one of the bad things about working with Vapor. You got it like this. Also, what's going on, Philip? Also, I may or may not be flipping back and forth between the terminal. Where are you? Where are you, little terminal? I'm considering doing it. Well, actually, no. You know what? Nah, I'm gonna do it in Xcode, but I'm gonna definitely minimize this bad boy. What I was gonna say is I was considering doing it and flipping between the terminal, like building and running in the terminal, and doing it in Xcode. Now they both do the same things, but you know, if you're following along on a Linux for whatever reason, you would only have the terminal, right? There's no Xcode on Linux, so just keep that in mind. This question by Glenn. Can I just say I started following these types of channels because I wanted to build an app. OMFG, I had no idea what I was gonna. Yeah, Glenn. Woo, boy. Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy. You know, once you get everything going, it's not too bad, but it's definitely not easy. All right, so we're going to take care of all this shortly, all this beautiful ugliness right here. But first, what we want to do is we just want to make sure that our port 8080 is working properly. So if we look at our route and it says it's a GET request, if we just do hello, then we should get back this JSON right here as hello and the key as world. So, or the value as world. So we'll just say /hello. Let's do that. Bam, hello world. It's working. We're ready to go, guys. All right, so first things first, let's just delete all the stuff that we don't need. Bam, don't need that. Nope. Hey guys, if you guys are new to programming, make sure that you go around and just start deleting stuff out your project to see what happens. And it sounds kind of funny, but that's some real advice for you. Just go around, start deleting stuff out of your project that you don't see what it's doing, and See what happens, because a lot of the stuff is boilerplate. Like what I just deleted was the post controller and the post object. Those are just examples of how to get going. You don't absolutely need them. So yeah, just keep that in mind. All right. So let's see. All right. Well, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go after our user objects. So let's go ahead and start doing that. And we'll only be able to get so far before we have to do a Vapor Xcode build, or a Vapor Xcode. Yeah, Vapor Xcode, because it will not be giving us our syntax highlighting, which I do not like working without because I'm so dependent on it. So we're just going to create a user object right now. Yeah. Is that a good way to learn troubleshooting also? Troubleshooting, um, troubleshooting. Is that a good way to learn troubleshooting? Well, I wouldn't say that's a good way to learn troubleshooting. You can't just start deleting stuff to see what happens, because especially if you don't understand what's going on. Because if you do that, right? If you start deleting stuff and you don't know what it's doing, well, then it may look like it did nothing, but it might have actually been connected to something that you aren't testing for. So I'm saying delete stuff in your your test project, not in your production products, guys. So you want to just yeah, you want to definitely do this in your test projects and see what happens. So just keep in mind when we're doing Vapor, the objects that we're going to be working with are going to be like Fluent objects. So we have to use the Fluent Provider. So we have to import that Fluent Provider. And Fluent, you can think of it as a wrapper that's sitting on top of like SQL calls. If you guys know what SQL calls, essentially it's the language that sits in between your API. It's essentially the language that talks to the database to get you what you're looking for. So we need to import Fluent Provider because we're about to make a user conform to what's called a model, and a model object, which is a Fluent object. And there's just a lot of stuff that goes into that. Now, also, like I was saying, we're going to be working with classes for anything that's going to be stored in the database, because it's a reference. It's essentially a pointer. Not necessarily a pointer, but yeah, like a reference to something that's living inside the database. It's not just a value, right? So that's why we're using classes, and we're saying final because one, you're not going to be subclassing this user. If you do, I forgot what it was, but there's a few things that just kind of get wonky when you start subclassing objects in your Vapor project. I mean, you can do it, but just things start getting a little bit weird. All right, so as you can see, we're not getting syntax highlighting. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do the Vapor build, the Vapor Xcode, I mean. So we got to change directories, CD, into where does this bad boy live? It's on that KL Learning, I believe, and this is called Hub.io. Nope, no, it's not in there. Kyle, where is it? Where'd you put it, Kyle? Oh, is that right? Okay, so it's back here. Let me find it. No, hold on. Damn, I don't even know where the hell this project is, guys. What happened to me? See, that's what happens. You don't do a live stream in so long, Kyle. You just getting old and rusty, boy. Oh, it's lowercase h. My bad. So I was going in the right direction. Okay. So desktop, not caps. KL Learning, Hub.io, and then we want to go to the server. What the hell? Hub.io server. There we go. How do you deploy Vapor on the web in a Docker container? That is one of the options that you have available to you. I'm not a web developer, so I don't fully understand the concept of Docker, other than that it's like you know, it's something that can be ported onto several different machines and, you know, be used kind of, you know, the same code is essentially there on, you know, whether you coded it on a Mac, a Linux, or a Windows machine. Um, you know, the code is all the same. But other than that, I don't really understand it. But yes, you can do it through a Docker container. What we're going to do is we're going to actually put this up in the Vapor Cloud. It's something that I've been experimenting with. So yeah. All right. So now we're in here. Let me just make sure that we have access to the packages because I think that's what really needs to build. So we do Vapor, Xcode, -y because it's gonna watch. If I just do Vapor Xcode, what it'll do is it's gonna do its thing, and then it's gonna ask me if I want to open up Xcode. So I have to press Y, and then it will open up. But if I did -y, it would just automatically open up for me. All right, so going back to Reed had asked a question. He said, "So since the iPhone X is pronounced iPhone 10, does that mean that it's 10 code?" Well, the way that I see it is, yeah, it's now we're now coding in 10 code, and Xcode is now deprecated, so everybody just call it 10 code, guys. It's the new norm. All right, so as you can see, we get that beautiful green syntax highlighting, and we're going to just let Xcode do this for us. Now, it will show you some of the things that we need to do, but it's not everything that we need to do, and it's actually not even the way that I would do it. So the reason I did this, and I don't want to get into too much detail, but storage is essentially used as the you know, the row ID. That's kind of what it is. It's like, you know, row ID 51 or something like that, right? So that's kind of what that is. And I actually like to actually make this a constant because it's not going to change. And we're just going to, we want to initialize that when one of these objects is made. So yeah, so we're going to make a storage. Now make row is exactly that. It makes a row for the database. So what you have to do is you have to set the values for each of the keys that you want in the database, and the initialize with a row, that's going to be essentially pulling the object that Vapor is retrieving from the database and turning it back into this user object. So I hope that all made sense. Once again, plan on doing a whole series of this type of stuff. And I'm going to go into a whole lot more detail once we get there. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to go back to my pages, and I'm going to move this bad boy right over, y'all. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Okay, you ain't going to do it? Fine. I don't need you. I didn't want to drag you anyway. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to look at our user object. And let me just, you know, shrink this a little bit so y'all can see what I be saying and stuff like that. All right. So what I want to do is I'm just going to create each of these objects or each of these properties that aren't special, like they don't have like special objects for their values. And we're going to get into the special objects a little bit later. But yeah, that's all we really want for right now. Because we have to do quite a bit of testing before we're actually able to do very much. So let's get that going. All right. So first thing is also keep in mind, do you want this value to be updatable, or is it going to be, you know, static? Is it going to be the same forever? So a username, I think we're going to let people change their username. So I'm going to make it a variable username. And we're just going to say that's a type string. Next is going to be password. Of course, password has to be a variable, so we'll do that also of type string. Next, we have full name. Full name, I personally don't like when you can change your full name. So I'm going to actually make that a let. We'll make that a constant, baby. Oh, yeah. Once you choose that full name, you can't go back. You can't go to the DMV and update that. Okay, boy? All right, so we got that full name up in there. Let's see, avatar name. Avatar. Yeah, you can always change your avatar, right? So that's going to be a variable. So we'll call it avatar name. And that will also be of type string. Now, everything else is kind of like a special object, and we're not going to deal with those right now. Um, and we don't really need to deal with those because right now what we want to do is just make a user model that we can essentially sign up, and then essentially in the end we'll be able to store. But we're not going to dive into databases in MySQL. I don't think anytime soon. Right. So the next thing that I like to do is we're going to be using, when you're working with Vapor, you have to write out like, so you have to say, okay, username. You have to specify what column or field that you're gonna be assigning a value to. So you would have to say username, right? And then you would have to say username, and then maybe you spell it wrong, right? And then you're like looking at your code and you're like, oh, where did I mess up, right? Because when you're working with strings, it just becomes very dirty, and bad stuff can happen to us. So we don't want bad stuff to happen to us. Kilo, what's your ETH address? I'll toss you some bones. Oh shit! While ETH is pushing. Oh my god. Damn. I'm gonna have to pull it up, guys. I'm sorry. ETH address. Let me. Oh man, that's crazy. Um, yeah, that's loading. Um, let me see. Let me see. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it here when we're doing a build. I appreciate that, Phil. I can't turn down ETH. Usually, like if you were to like offer cash, I'd be like, nah, man. I probably shouldn't do that because I'm gonna have a platform coming out that I've been promising you guys, but just haven't been able to do it. You know, gonna be putting out all this content for you guys at a really affordable monthly rate. I'm gonna get it to you. I'll get it to you, Philip. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, so instead of using username dirty string like this, what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a struct. Now I would do a enum. I prefer to do enums, but there's like a lot of setup that you would have to do in order to do what I'm about to do. But so I'm just working with structs until I find out a very simple way of making Vapor accept enums. So we're just going to do a struct, and what we're going to do is we're going to just say static let, and we're going to do every property that we have, right? Even storage, except storage is going to be ID. But I'll show you what I mean, what we're doing. Username is equal to just username, like that. So this way we can always use keys.username, and we will never have that misspelling. And if it's misspelled, then it's misspelled everywhere. So if I did username like that, then it's misspelled everywhere, but we shouldn't ever run into any problems. So what we're going to do is we're going to do that for each of these. Password, and that's going to be like password. And then we'll do static let full name, and that's gonna be a full name like that. Oh yeah. And then last, well, not last, but we're gonna do it like static let avatar name equal avatar. Whoa, Kyle, what is that? Better put them quotes around that. Avatar name, like so. All right, so we're gonna make sure we never have misspellings. Also, I like to identify my storage ID, or well, the storage. Remember, I said it's kind of like the ID. If you ever look at a database, that's essentially what the storage property is. It's the ID. So we'll do static let ID is equal to ID. Now, we're gonna be making this struct keys, the keys struct in all of our objects, all of our models. I haven't really spent too much time figuring out a more like a easier way of doing it, a less repetitive way of doing it. If you guys come up with something, then by all means let me know. The problem is, like, you can't do like protocol oriented or like a super class, right? You can't do a super class because all of these properties will be different in each object. So I'm not sure if there's really a way around it, but it gets a little bit repetitive, but it makes it a lot less likely that you're going to run into problems in the future. All right. So usually I like to have my initializers a little bit higher than the functionality after. So we're going to start off with this initializer. And all we're going to do is we're going to just say self. Oh, actually, I like to line these up too. Make them look all nice and sexy. Yes. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to say self.fullname is equal to, and everything in Vapor throws. You see this? Throws, bam. Throws. Everything, just about everything in Vapor that you're going to be working with is going to throw, which is a good thing because it's not going to crash your server. Bad thing is that you have to put try everywhere. But once again, back over to the good thing is it allows you for very robust error handling. So I really like that. So try, and we're going to get the row that's from right here. I said right here, man. Row dot get. So we're initializing a user object with a row inside the database. Right now it's just the Fluent database. Don't worry about what kind of database. And we're saying get the value of and we want to get the full name. So we're going to do keys dot full name. Keys dot full name. Hope that makes sense, right? So essentially what it's saying, get the value of whatever column matches this, right? That's all we're saying. Okay, so what we have to do is we have to do that for each of these, with the exception of ID, because the ID is already handled automatically by Fluent for us. So that's kind of nice. So we'll do self dot I don't know why I started with full name. Stupid Kyle. Self dot username is equal to try row dot get keys dot username. And gets a little bit repetitive, yeah, I'm not gonna lie. But hey, we gotta do some of this stuff, man. Remember, making an app ain't always fun like it is. But hey, you know, when I start doing stuff that I know what I'm doing, I get pretty happy on the inside. I'm like, hey, damn, Kyle, you know how to do that? I'm like, yeah, I know how to do that. And they're like, and the other voice in my head's like, damn, man, you came a long way since that restaurant. Oh, yeah, man. Yeah, it's a whole lot better than working in a restaurant. I know that much. All right. All right. So what this will do is it'll initialize the object from our Fluent. Yeah. So Fluent is kind of like a database. It's kind of like an in-memory database. Depending on where you deploy it, and most places, and you really shouldn't, but depending on where you deploy it, it's kind of like working with in-memory storage. So it will store all your objects in memory, but depending on where you deploy it, you know, those files can get updated, rewritten, and thrown away. So that's why you need something like MySQL. It would be amazing if Fluent was its own database that wasn't just memory, but it's not. So can't do that. All right, so we have the initializer. This is fine. This should work. Next, we need to make a row to finish conforming to model. And the way that we do that is we start off by actually creating a row, an empty row, right? And we're going to say row like that. And we have to try row dot, and we have to set the values for the row that we're going to be putting into the database. God, Kyle, learn how to talk, you dirty man. sorry. I'm sorry. All right. So what we have to do is, once again, we have to say what column that we're going to put it in, which is why I'm started to put the keys, and we have to specify what value we're going to put in that column. So we have to say the column is going to be keys.username, and for the value that we want to put in for that column is going to be our username, which is referring to this username up here. Now, row.set. The hell I can't. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. All right, just to make it less confusing to you guys, I'll just say self. You don't have to put self. I actually don't like putting self right there, but it may make it a little bit less confusing to you guys, and that's what I want to make sure. All right, late to the live stream. We building a web app here or an API or something? We are building the models. We're building a user model that's going to be used in our web app and in several APIs. So yes to all those questions. Next, we want to do try row.set keys. Next is going to be password. And we'll just say the value of self.password. Right. Next, we'll do row.set, and dang, it's like, damn, Kyle, just copy and paste, you dirty man. And I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. That's a lot faster. Hope you guys are fine with copy and pasting. Once again, I'm going to be going over all of this stuff in detail where I won't be copying and pasting, but in real life, I do copy and paste. So let's kind of make this a little bit like real life. Play that real life. Avatar name and avatar name. All right. So hope this is pretty straightforward. We just made a row. We're setting different values on these specific keys. And all we're going to do is just return that row like so. Never heard of Vapor, Ryan. Never heard. Vapor is the best. Well, I mean, this is opinion, obviously, is the best backend framework for Swift. I've done Kitura. I've done Perfect. I've done a lot of Perfect actually, and damn, like not coming from a web development background, it's just really hard to learn with that stuff. Vapor is a perfect app if you're an iOS developer, or Vapor is a perfect framework if you're an iOS developer getting into web development to start with. Perfect may be better in the long run, but I'm not there yet. All right, so we have essentially our user object, right? And we made it and all this other great stuff, but what we need to do now is we also need a different initializer, which will allow us to actually create it in our web request, in our API request. So when we send up, when we're signing up and we send up all these parameters, we can parse them out, and then from there, from parsing it out, what we can do is we can actually create a user object. Now, I don't want to go in, because if I were to start just writing the initializer right now, it would be kind of hard to follow. So what I want to do is I just want to keep going with what's required by the model and by the Fluent provider to get everything up and running. And then we're going to go back over to the routes. And then if we have time, we'll try to create a user object. So moving on, after you complete what's necessary, the protocols of creating a model object, which is having a storage object, initializing with a row, and making a row. After that, what you want to do is there's two other protocols that you're going to want to follow. Well, not protocols, but yeah, well, just one other protocol, but it has two methods, I should say. That's the better way of saying it. So what we're going to do is we're going to extend our user object with an extension. And if all this isn't really making sense and coming together for you right now, that's fine. It will make sense in the near future. We have to conform to a protocol called preparation. And preparation, essentially what it does is it sets up Fluent or any other uh, database or server that not server, yeah, database. It's going to set up any other database that with this user object to make sure that it is stored in that database. So right now, like I said, we're kind of using Fluent as a database. It's like an in-memory database. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that our user is properly prepared inside of our Fluent memory. And there's also the need for revert, which will essentially delete that table from the database. So yeah. All right. So let's move forward. Again, in-depth stuff is coming. So what we have to do is we have to do try database. That database right there. And what we're going to do is we're going to create. Now we're not getting syntax highlighting. What we want to do is we're going to create, I think it's this one. Yeah. So we're going to say self because we want to create a user object, which is self is referring to this the user. And the closure, the creator, we're going to press enter. Wait, is this the way that it's supposed to look? I don't remember it looking like this. It looked different in mine. I think it was just this right here. Yeah, you guys can copy. You guys can reconfigure it to look like mine if you want. It's up to you. Anyway, we're just gonna call this builder. That's what I saw it called in the documentation, builder. So we're gonna do that. And what we want to do is we want to say we want to create the builder is essentially creating. So this is creating the object in our database, right? So create self, right? Creating the object, which is user, creating a user in our database. The builder is what puts columns in those databases. So we would have an ID column, we had a full name column, avatar column, so on and so forth, right? So with the builder, what we have to do is we have to say builder for each of those properties that we made up above. So we'd say builder.id. This one's a function. It's automatically included when you conform or when you import the Fluent provider. The next one is builder dot. We have to set the value, or we have to state what type of value it is. So each of these are strings. So we're just going to do dot string for each of them. If password was like a number, then we would do like dot integer or something like that. But we're just going to do dot string. And the name is, once again, we don't want to spell it wrong. So we're going to do keys dot, the first one was username, like so. And we just have to do that for each of our properties. So if we go ahead and copy, bam, 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 and bam, and we just replace this username, password, full name, avatar name, right? So that's going to make the columns in each of our no, it's going to create the columns in our table. I'm sorry, I was saying something weird. All right, next, and that's all you have to do for this prepare. That will automatically make that work. So do that, looking good. And then next is revert. And for this one, all you have to do is just say try the database that's passed in. All we're going to do is we're going to delete that bad boy. Just delete it. And we're going to say delete the object, which is user. So essentially we'll be deleting that table. Oh yeah. Okay. So now we essentially have all the Fluent stuff set up and good to go. So what I usually like to do is I just want to run this, make sure that I'm not going to get any weird compile errors. What the hell? Come on, Xcode, wake up, buddy. There we go. It's dead. All right, now we can try this again. All right, and while that builds, your boy Kilo Loco is going to go look for his Ethereum wallet address because Philip wants to be an awesome person and just send me amazing money. Yep, got that. All right. Okay, so we did get an error, and right? Did we got an error, right? Okay. So this is a perfect error. So remember I told you we're just going to start deleting stuff, right? So let me hold on, let me paste this. That's the Ethereum wallet. Thank you very mucho. And I'll just say that's ETH wallet. What the hell? ETH, not etc. ETH wallet. All right. Okay. So remember I said start deleting the stuff that you're probably not going to use. Well, remember post was in there. Well, we don't want post in there. As a matter of fact, we want to replace it with user because we do have a user object. And this is going to essentially, this is the function that calls the preparations for the user object. And that will actually be what's going to create the user table in our database. So let's go ahead and run it and see if we did everything right. No problem, Philip. I love learning, and the awesome thing is that teaching just forces me to learn stuff even better. Okay, so now we can see that we didn't have any errors, which is pretty cool. No errors. I like that. So now what we want to do, yeah, let's just keep going. I don't like seeing all this stuff. It kind of bothers me, but we're gonna keep going because I think you guys want to see the cool stuff, and we're coming up on our hour, and I just want you guys to see some cool stuff. All right, so now what we can do is we should be able to create a user object, and the way that we're gonna test this out is we're going to go over to our routes, and we're gonna set up a test route just so that we can ping it and see if we're able to create a user object before we actually start sending up parameters to see if we can create it dynamically. So we'll do get. So it's going to be a get request, and we're just going to say test, or we could call it user. Let's just call it user. Why not? And then we'll just say request. I think this will be more explanatory if I say request. So it's going to be passing in a request right here, but we're not going to be using it. So I mean, you could do the underscore, which is perfectly fine for right now. We'll definitely need to replace it. This will need to be post, and we'll definitely need to use the request later, but that's later. All right. So first, we're just going to take all of our properties. We're going to just recreate all of our properties in hard code. So let's do let username equal kilo logo, capital L though. Let password equal pass 123. Let username let full name equal Kyle Lee, like a South spouse. And then lastly, let avatar name equal Kyle.jpg, right? I mean, it doesn't even matter what we put in here, but I mean, at least we can kind of see what direction we're going with those properties that we plan on creating. Oh, you know what? I didn't do the initializer. Damn. Okay. Yeah, let's just create our user. That's fine. That's fine. We're going to create an initializer just so that we can create this user object at first, so that you guys can actually see that we're creating an object and then returning it. And then we'll go back and eventually delete this. And after we delete it, we'll replace it with something that is actually a little bit more useful. So we'll just say the initializer is going to be, your usual initializer with all the properties. So we got the username, we got the password, we have the full name, and then we have the avatar name. right? And then obviously all we have to do is just say self.username is equal to username. Yeah, this stuff hasn't changed, guys. This is, just good old Swift. Good old boring old Swift. So come on, Kyle equals full name and then self dot avatar name is equal to avatar name, right? Right. Coup, double coup. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to create a user. We're going to just my user. Or we'll just call it user. I think you guys understand that much. Come on. User. And we're going to initialize it. We're not going to get any syntax highlighting because we just got so much going on right now. Username, password, full name, and then avatar name. All right, so that gives us our user. And what we can do is we can create a JSON object. So we would say, we can say return, because it has to be response representable, which our user object isn't right now. Thank you, Philip. Thank you for sending that. I really appreciate it, man. Really appreciate it. So we can't return our user like this, and there's nothing for us to like return JSON. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna say try. We're gonna make JSON because we want to return JSON in our API response, and you can initialize a JSON object, which is from Vapor. I believe is it from Vapor? Is it from Fluent? Let me double check it. Yeah, it's from Vapor. Okay, yeah, JSON. Yeah. Okay, so you can initialize it with a node, and a node essentially is a dictionary. So you could say username, and that's going to be equal to our user dot username. Now we could have done just straight off username, but I'm just trying to show you that we did create the object, and now we're just using the properties that we created. And we're gonna, there's a lot more cool stuff coming, but we gotta just take baby steps, and the baby steps kind of suck. Believe me, I know. But you just want to make sure each step of the way you're not missing something, and doing those baby steps will kind of help you not miss anything. So dot full name, and then lastly avatar name. Also, I'm not an expert at Swift. Let's just be frank. But I'm definitely not an expert at web development. So the fact that I don't really fully know everything that I'm doing, I like to take baby steps to make sure that I'm not missing anything. And I like to test it a lot because the back end is the most crucial part. It's what thinks. It's the thing that is going to be thinking for your app. So now when we hit the user endpoint, which we could just do in a browser, which is pretty cool whenever it's get, but I mean, no, because I have the website on the other screen. We'll just do it in Rested, but you could do it and get in the browser if you wanted to just type in localhost 8080 and just type in user, that would work too. So as you can see, it does look like it's working. It looks like we were able to get those properties back, which is pretty cool. So far, so good. Everything's looking good. What we want to do, though, is we want to actually get let's see. How do we want to do this? because I'm trying to think, like I want to show you how we can get all of the users and see if it's actually saved there or not, because it's not saved right now. So what I'll do is I'll just say get, and I'll say all users for right now, and we're gonna make them restful. Don't worry if you're like, hey Kyle, that's just not restful, bro. I know it's not restful. It will be restful, I promise you that much. It will be restful. It's just not restful right now. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to say try, or we'll say let users equal try user dot all. Is it user all? Yeah, all. So that's going to get us all of our users back that are currently saved in Fluent, because we don't have a database connected yet, right? And since we don't have anything that can show us in JSON what our user object looks like yet, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to return the count. So what we'll do is we'll say return this sentence, there are this amount of users. So we'll just say users.count. So now if we go ahead and run this, we should get a sentence back. So I just want what I want to demonstrate here is you know, we're creating a user, right? But we're not actually saving that user, which is something that we have to do. So once again, if we create that user, bam, we get that user, we get this back, right? But if I say port 8080 and I say all users, there are 0 users. Well, that's because we haven't saved any. So what we have to do is we actually have to say simple user dot save. Like that. Pretty cool, huh? This is why I love Vapor. You see how that automatically saves it. Watch. You're gonna see some stuff right now, guys. It's gonna be amazing. Oh my god. So I think it started. And if we do this, so we're gonna create that user. Did it come back? Is that right now? That's not right now. Okay, it came back, right? And if we do this, one user. Now, right now we haven't like put in anything to prevent repeated data. So if we just did this and just kept doing it, you would see that there's 7 users now, which isn't a good thing, but we're going to get to that like way down the line. But yeah, I just wanted to show you. So now we're saving objects, right? Which is pretty cool. The next step would be let's make these users dynamic, right? Because we don't want to be using all this. Like, what good is this? This makes one user. What's your app gonna do now, Kyle? Well, it's gonna sit there and look ugly. Not even sit there and look pretty. It's gonna look ugly. Anyway, so now what we want to do is we're changing the request. We're stating that it's a request because what we're going to do is we're going to take that request and we're going to pull out some of those properties. And even this was going to probably we're not going to be working directly with the request. Anyway, what we want to do is we want to take out the properties from the request and then input them into the user object that we're actually planning on saving. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to get our request and we're going to say, and the request has a property on it called JSON, but we don't know if the request that's coming in is JSON. So what we have to do is we have to say guard let JSON equals request dot JSON else return, and we have to return something, or actually we can do else throw, because everything throws. Everything throws. So we're going to say throw abort, and we could just say bad request for right now. Later on, we'll probably make it a little bit more, descriptive, so that we can pass that error along to our client. So now that we have the JSON, what we want to do is we're just going to remember how over here in the user, when we did kind of how we did the row, we did row.set. We're kind of going to do the same thing with the JSON, but we're going to just do get. We want to pull that information out of the JSON. So what we'll do is we'll say let username equal try JSON dot get, and we want to get, and we're going to say user dot keys dot username. I believe that was the syntax that I like to use. And let's just go ahead and copy. Let's copy and paste this bad boy a couple times. Say it, because Kyle's kind of slow when he types. We'll just say password, and then next over here would be full name, and full name, and then last but not least, avatar name. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take the value. We're going to get the value for each of these keys inside the JSON, and we're going to pass that value into whatever that property is right there. We're going to pass those properties into this object, this initializer. We're going to save it, and then we're going to also print out what's in there. But the problem is right now is that we have a get. We need to change that to a post so that we can actually send some parameters, right? So we're just going to try this out. If it works, if it doesn't, then we still have to, close up the session. But yeah, so remember we're going to go over to user, because this is the API request that we're about to do, user, and it's a post request. So we change that to post, and then make sure it's JSON encoded, because we are trying to get some JSON, or else it's going to give us that abort bad request. And then what we do, we just say, oh yeah, we have to make sure that we get each of those. So we say username equal to at kilo, and then the next thing is password. You spell all this stuff right, or else it won't work, just like a real API request. That's going to be 1 2 3 4 5 6, right? And then after that, could not be inferred. Oh yeah, you also have to do this. You have to specify what type of value you're expecting out of it, because it's not saying like that it's a string or that it's an integer. So we have to just pass it in there, because Swift is strongly typed, and that's what makes it so sexy. All right, going back. All right, next is full name, and it doesn't even matter what order we put these in, but I just try to keep them in the right order. Full name Jamal Garcia, alias, and then avatar name. I'll say Jamal.jpg. All right, so now if we did all this right, and it works properly, and we're parsing the JSON properly, we should be able to create a user object, save that user object, and then it should also be printed out to the console when we pass it in. So let's see. Let's send that request. Here's the moment of truth. Oh no, it didn't work. All right, so now we have to find out, well, hey Kyle, why didn't it work? Well, not too sure, so let's figure it out. So we have the request, and what we want to see is this actually JSON that we're sending up? Yes, it seems to be JSON. And Oh, you know what? I think because this is a number, that might have caused the problem. So when you have just a number like that, you kind of want to, what we can do is we could just say P. We'll say P like that. And nope, that didn't fix it. Yeah, that didn't fix it. So let's see, avatar name, full name, password, username. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to see how far did we get. And this is how I usually debug. I just put a bunch of print statements everywhere. We got in, we got out. And you know, let's see. And print S. Now, breakpoints don't work in here, right? Because this is a server, and you know, it just does not work like that. So, I mean, this is how I'd usually debug it, anyways. I just put print statements everywhere. But oh, that's kind of weird. Why did that work this time? You know what? Sometimes if you don't press enter on it, it could. That's kind of weird. Sometimes if you don't press enter on the property or the value inside of rested, it won't save it, and that occasionally happens to me. Like I'll type in something different, like I'll say like that, but since I didn't do anything, it's still technically going up as what it was before I started editing it. So yeah, we did do it right. The problem was that it was thinking that this is a number, which it wasn't, and that P changed everything. So yeah, now if we go over here, well, I just added one more user, right? So it should be 8. No, wrong. Because it's Fluent and it's in memory, every time we restart this, our server, our Fluent server, you know, everything gets erased and we have to start back from 0. So that's one of the downsides of Fluent. You know, it's just memory, and you have to keep that in mind. And that's all it's supposed to be, is just memory. So yeah. All right. So I think this is a good spot to wrap it up, guys. You know, we got to see how a user object is made, you know, started adding the properties. We added the keys just so that we don't get any misspellings. We added this initializer, which we'll remove in the future, but we just wanted to make a user object to make sure that we can make one. This is being used in the background by Fluent to store into memory right now, but also later it'll be storing into the database. Or no, this is pulling it from memory or the database. This is making it into a row so that it can be stored inside memory or database. The prepare method, once again, that's just going to create the table, and the builder is going to construct all the columns in that table and revert. We almost never use this, but this is just going to delete that table from the database. Then we went over to our routes. We made 2 different routes that will be just all this is going to be deleted in the end, but we just wanted to test it out, make sure that we can get data up here, parse it out, and then create a user object, save that object, and then make sure that we have those properties of that saved object. And we also want to see how much is left, or how many objects were actually saved. So I think that is a good, I mean, this is way more interesting than you know, when we were doing that other stuff, the when we were just doing the stupid UI design, because I hate doing UI. The sad thing is, like, I actually tried on some of these, like on some of the I already switched it to my face. I actually tried on the UI. Like, I'm not good at UI. I could probably be. I just don't care too much about, like, it's not that I don't care, because UI will definitely, it's very important to your app to stand out. but I just really enjoy doing the fun stuff, doing the coding, figuring out the problems. That's what I enjoy doing. So when it comes to UI, just don't really care about it. So next week we're going to continue with the Vapor server. I think we're going to get the majority of the Vapor. I think we're going to get all the back end set up first before we even move back into the front end. It really helps you think about how the app should work. And I think doing the back end stuff is probably the way to go. So yeah. Um, Yeah, in my personal app, I did the front end first, but it's kind of it kind of goes both ways. You can do both ways. So, yeah, that was the entire app building process. I appreciate all of you guys for coming today. I'm still kind of trying to gauge what time of day is best for you guys. I plan on keeping things a little bit more consistent. Things have just been really hectic for me lately, but the channel it's like if it's down here right now, it's coming up, baby. It's gonna come up. You guys are gonna be seeing a difference in production quality, the format of my videos, and just in general, you're gonna be having a lot of access to all kinds of content I plan on putting out. So yeah, and be on the lookout for the Kilo Loco platform. I know I keep saying, "Oh, it's gonna be due." Oh, Kyle, you lying? Like I didn't even get to work on it this week, but just be on the lookout. Sign up on my website right now, kiloloco.com, because I'll be sending out an email. I don't really use those emails. Like I'm collecting them because it's what I'm supposed to do as a business owner, but I don't really like spam you guys. Like all the emails that I plan on sending out, they will be sent out by me, not by like some bot that was made. And that might change in the future if I get like really big, like Ray Wenderlich. But yeah, I'm not gonna spam you guys. So just sign up, and then when the app actually launches, it will be sent to your email. So just be on the lookout for the next email that you get from Kilo Loco. All right, guys, thanks for all of your time. Big shout out to Philip. Man, send the ether like a boss. Really appreciate that. And yeah, just keep pushing, guys. But above all else, keep coding passionately. All right. I will see you guys later on this week. Definitely gonna try to get out some videos. And yeah, and we'll be back on this next week, either Saturday or Sunday. Not sure yet. Let me know what you guys think. What day works best for you guys, so I could plan accordingly for y'all. Yeah. All right. Later.